It's time for another episode of The Gold Mind. I'm your host, Casey Bell, and today's guest is Bonné Bartron. Let's get the show started. You have your own book that you've independently published, and you have your own um, candle business now. Um, so you're now considered an entrepreneur. Did you grow up with knowledge of entrepreneurship? Did your parents, did you live around entrepreneurship, or were you in a more of a working class?
So the interesting thing about it, I am the daughter of a Special Forces Green Beret. So I grew up all over the world with the military. So they're not really entrepreneurs inside the military. However, my mother, my mother has always been an entrepreneur. It just was never really discussed that way. Um, when you're a military spouse, you move every 3 to 4 years. So it's very difficult to have a consistent job. So what I did observe were a lot of women, including my mother, creating jobs for themselves and creating networks among themselves to kind of lift each other up and help each other's business. So my mom started a preschool business whenever we were kids, and she'd do it when we were in school. And then we come home, there were no kids there, and like the whole house was clean. Like, I mean, it was incredible. My mom was like literally incredible. How she had that energy, I do not know. Like the woman is amazing. But I mean, because of that, like we were definitely middle class. Military is not, I mean, my dad was a high rank in the military, but it's not you don't get into that business for money. You get into that business for other reasons. Like our family, it goes back generations. Like our family's been in the military for a long, long time. And so I'm actually the first generation to not go to or join the military. And I still ended up going to Iraq. I still ended up going to war for 7 months. So go figure. But yeah, so I think that was probably the inspiration for me without even really recognizing it, because, especially on a military base, the women didn't really get a lot of accolade for what they were doing. It just was what they did, and I always found that extremely impressive that they didn't ask for someone's permission. They didn't wait for someone to hire them. Like my mother and, other people, other military spouses that I was around, they just made it happen for themselves. And so I think that attitude definitely was instilled in me young.
I was just about to ask that. Would you say that was the reason? Because so many people who don't really grow up in an entrepreneurship family, when they come to the conclusion they want to be an entrepreneur, sometimes they take so long to take the first step due to fear and uncertainty.
Sure.
But it seems like your first step in entrepreneurship was this book. You didn't even I guess because you didn't have time to wait, but you didn't hesitate. You just ran right into it. So would you say your mother was an inspiration? Like what caused you to just run into doing it without hesitating or questioning or, waiting for something?
Absolutely. Well, to be frank with you, you can't be a filmmaker without that attitude either. If you are hesitating and waiting for somebody else to give you an opportunity, especially if you are not a well-connected person inside the business already, you'll be waiting for a very long time. So I do think that, yeah, absolutely. My mom always said, like, if you're going to do something, do it right. And so that's kind of the attitude that I've always had. Like, there's no point in half-assing something. I don't know if you can, do you want me to re-say that word? Are you
No,
okay
it's
with
fine.
that? Okay, sorry. Sometimes I'm like, ooh, my language. But yeah, there's no point in half-assing something, because at the end of the day, you're gonna have to clean up the mess that you left behind. So you might as well do it right the first time. So I think I've always taken that into mind, where I've always really thought things out from beginning to end. In a way that doesn't hinder me, it helps me move forward. So instead of obsessing about details, I'm thinking this is step 1, 2, 3, and I'll figure out the details as I'm in it, as long as I have a good knowledge of base of where I'm going in. So like really understanding the world I'm getting into. And sometimes it's smart to not understand the world, because if I had had an idea what Hollywood was really like, it probably would have made me become a lawyer, and I would never have gotten to where I am now. So, if I'd have known that like my 20s were going to be just a shit ton of grinding, I probably would have, become a lawyer and written books on the side or something. I don't know. I don't know how it would have affected me. So sometimes I think running in is the best bet, because at least you get something done.
Right.
And if you're going to fail spectacularly.
Right. Well, with that said, did you make any mistakes along the way that you learned from, and what did you learn during the process?
Oh my God. I mean, yeah, all the time. I mean, mistakes are the biggest part of learning, in my opinion. Like every time I've made a mistake, it's made me so much better the next time I do something. So yeah, I mean, I've made a ton of mistakes, and I've had the space from the people in my life to be able to make those mistakes and come back stronger, and I think that's really important, as well as finding people who support your path and are willing to kind of help you when you do make mistakes, because nobody's perfect. I mean, literally nobody, and especially not me. Like there are plenty of things that like I would have done different, but like in retrospect, I wouldn't have done them different because they helped me get where I am now, and like have the mentality and the point of view that I do now that I wouldn't have without making those mistakes, for sure. So I mean, I think the best advice is don't be afraid of mistakes, because they make you better.
All right. So one thing I can say for sure for my life, and I'm sure many people can say, the pandemic kind of taught you that you can make plans, but they may not necessarily happen. But are you still maybe working on some projects? Are you working on anything, or are you kind of just like waiting for the coast to clear?
I don't wait. I'm very bad like that. I'm like milk. Okay. I don't sit well. Like I just don't sit well. So right now I'm actually in the middle of another book. It's called Movement. And it is a YA adventure book, a post-apocalyptic adventure book. And I also have 2 TV shows that are going around right now. I was actually, before I talked to you, I was on the phone with an agent in the UK discussing one of the shows. And I have both of those films that ended up getting iced. We have them, getting warmed up again, I guess is the best way to put it, where we are checking avails and dates and figuring things out for that. So yeah, I mean, I'm very excited about the pandemic coming to a close, and I'm very excited about being able to start working with other people again. But I will say that it has been an interesting situation for me personally, because I've definitely had some tragedy in our family, but
Sorry to hear that.
yeah, thanks. I think everybody has, but that being said, it also was a blessing in ways that made me, instead of worrying about having a team around me all the time, I got to write whispers very much insular, and read it to my boyfriend and my mom and my sister when I'd finish a new chapter. And it was a very special situation where I've never really had that experience before. So there was a lot that I feel like were hidden gifts for me for this last year, and that's definitely the big one, is just being comfortable working on my own, and like also making space for myself to not feel like if I'm not constantly going, I am going to collapse. That I think was the hardest part for me, was just I was so used to going for so long and pushing on everything so hard to like make sure that things were happening and checking in here and checking in, and then when all the balls dropped to the floor, at first I didn't know what the heck to do. But I do think that was really good for me, but I am really looking forward to getting back into it. In the same breath.
Thank you for watching another episode of The Gold Mind. I'd like to thank our guest, Bonné Bartron, for stopping on by, and to you, the viewers, thank you so much. Have a great day.